We want to keep in line with the World Bank report. We have an exclusive interview with the Trade and Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Adan Mohamed, joining us live from our city center studios to unpack for us why Kenya is poised to become a key player in regional trade following the revised rankings by the World Bank. Good afternoon, Cabinet Secretary Adan Mohamed. And picking off from your earlier sentiments, perhaps which areas specifically did Kenya improve on?
Well, first of all, we are very excited and pleased as Kenya to have made such a significant stride. There are 10 areas that are measured annually by the World Bank Group, comparing different countries of the world, 190 of them. And so getting credit is one area, for example, where we have done extremely well. Access to electricity is another significant area of improvement that we have done. Issues around protecting minority rights is another area that we have made good progress, in addition to paying taxes, which is another very key area for us as an area where we improve our competitiveness as a country.
This report, CS, of course, moving 8 places up was seen by analysts as a major milestone really for Kenya. Perhaps for the SMEs, what does this mean for them moving forward?
First of all, I think the number of places we have moved up is actually 12 points. We moved from position 92 last year to position number 80 today. And that is out of 190 countries in the world. And if you look at that in the context of sub-Saharan Africa, we are ranked number 3 out of all the African countries. And that says a lot about Kenya's place as far as improving its business environment is concerned within the region and as a way of attracting investments in the country. These reforms are geared towards supporting all sectors of our economy, small, medium-sized, as well as large businesses. And a number of reforms that we have undertaken in the last 3 or so years have been geared towards supporting especially the small and medium-sized businesses. So, for example, we introduced a couple of years ago a New Companies Act that is geared towards supporting and improving the lives of small and medium-sized businesses. We now have ability to register a one-man, one-woman company in Kenya, one director. We don't have to have annual general meetings for small businesses or having a company secretary, so on and so forth. Also, we have a new Insolvency Act that was enacted a couple of years ago, again geared towards supporting businesses that are in distress as a way of making sure that these businesses revive, not to help creditors to actually recover their monies. So these are just examples of reforms that have been made specifically geared towards supporting small businesses. And there are a whole raft of areas, including registering property, how easy it is today to do searches for properties from the desk of, at the button of from your desk. Issues like paying taxes. You can register for your PIN and paying your taxes much easily. So it is a very pro small and medium-sized business reforms. We do it annually with interactions with them, and we continue to improve our operations so that it's easier for businesses to thrive in Kenya.
And CS, what do you make of other regional economies, the likes of South Africa, Rwanda, which have actually been ahead of Kenya by a big margin? Does this show that we still have a lot to work on, really?
Well, we are actually ahead of South Africa this year. We are number 3 on the continent, only behind Mauritius as well as Rwanda. The 3rd country on the continent is Kenya in terms of the most business-friendly environment to do business on the continent of Africa. And for that reason, we have been ranked by different organizations on how Kenya is an attractive place to do business. We were voted as the second most attractive investment destination in Africa last year by Ernst & Young and many others. And these rankings don't just happen. They translate into specific activities and deliverables. So, for example, the level of our foreign direct investments into this country in 2013 was just under $400 million. Last year, we were approaching $2 billion US. And we believe with continued improvement in our business environment, it will make Kenya the right place for people to come and set up, a place where the business environment is very friendly, where the market access is good, and you can have ability to trade into different parts of the world, be it Europe, the US, Asia, as well as a wider part of Africa.
And CS, looking at the current political situation in the country, earlier on we did definitely see a lot of jitters coming through with the just concluded elections. And it would be unfair for me not to ask you this question. What impact will the current impasse have really on the economy? We did hear from the Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich saying that Kenya might not reach the growth targets that were anticipated for this particular year.
You see, any election in any part of the world causes a certain amount of anxiety, and that level of anxiety tends to get exaggerated on the continent of Africa for a long time. We've had elections since 1963, every 5 years, and we have demonstrated that, change of governments can happen peacefully. I think what happened this year has been unique in a number of ways. We have demonstrated to the world that more than any other country on the continent, or indeed in the world, that we respect the rule of law, and however painful it is, we stand by what our Constitution says, and that carries a lot of confidence-building opportunity in actually helping us brag about how lawful country, how much we respect the rule of law we are as a country. That aside, the fact that there are jitters every time around elections, people tend to hold off temporarily on any major investment decisions to see and make sure that the wind of elections and change pass and that there is no surprises. So this election is not unique in any way as far as that specific wait and see is concerned. But what we want to see is, at the earliest possible opportunity to put election behind us, so that the positive vibes that we have been able to create over time, the significant investment that has been done in infrastructure, the significant improvements in the business environment that we are seeing, all build up towards making Kenya an even more attractive place. And so we have now for the last 3 months, I would say, been in an intense level of elections, and the level of GDP growth would be affected by that. But we want to turn very quickly into building the confidence of people, businesses, be they domestic as well as international, to say that the future is much more brighter. And I think anybody who has been afraid about, this country having problems and so on and so forth, can see that there are not many countries that do 2 elections in about 60 days apart.
And finally, CS, we also must not forget that there are sections of the economy or the country that are still yet to move on just after this election. And what impact might this have in terms of directing investments to those particular counties, knowing very well that you've been championing the agenda for industrialization across all the 47 counties. And of course, the opposition has made it clear that they'll make it difficult for Jubilee government to govern.
Well, you see, our competition as a country is not with different counties in the country, but it's with the international, other parts of the world, countries where we are competing for some level of investments. And it's important that investors feel secure and the returns are adequate for them to come and invest in this place. One of the things that we have embarked on in the last few years has been to make sure that our counties, in their own ways, demonstrate that attractiveness to, different investor groups. And that's why a lot of our governors have been traveling out of the world to attract investments. And we have seen different level of successes in actually making that work. So it is unfortunate that some of the violence that we see in different parts of the countries would, of course, prolong the level of anxiety and level of holding off investments, wait and see. So, for example, we had just before, in June, July, the president announced a significant investments by East African breweries in Kisumu that is going to create at least 30,000 new jobs in that area directly, supporting a lot of farmers. And I have no doubt that the question will be asked by that investor on whether this is the right time to actually proceed with that. So the message, I think, for different counties across the country is that any prolonged level of delays and, lack of preparedness in terms of closing the chapter on this moving forward will have its own negative impact. But as a country, I think we are very confident that, we've done significant amount of investments in the hardware, be it rail, road, the ports, and many others. And the softer side of things, making it an easy place to do business as a country, which is manifested in the results that we announced today. And with all the market access that we have built over time with the EU, where we have a tax-free, quota-free market access, with the US, where we have no duties to pay, within COMESA and the whole parts of Africa, I think now really the opportunity is ours to lose. And with all the young people we need to support and get jobs for, the last thing we want to do is for investors to feel less confident about this country that have so many times been voted as a very attractive place to do business by international bodies.
Many thanks, CS Adan Mohamed, for that interesting conversation where we've been trying to get more insights really from the recently released report by the World Bank. Well, pictures coming